Hello and welcome to the Unknown Comics Gaming Podcast. Happy Friday for us. I'm co-host Brandon. There's Chris. There's Tanner. Hello, guys.
Howdy.
Hello.
That was very delayed.
Hello.
Like, were y'all thinking of what to say?
No.
The reply to my
Tanner's
hello?
always so fast, so I just usually wait till he's done. But then he was slow today.
Alrighty, well, so let's go ahead and get into it. So the first thing we want to talk about today, and this is close to Tanner's heart. He was very angry last week,
I've waited so long.
Like 2 months.
the last 2
So
months. But we're finally getting the Warhammer 40K is finally getting the Death Guard new models. That,
Yeah, so when you hear this, it will be up for pre-order.
okay.
It goes up to... Today is Friday, we're recording. It goes up tomorrow.
So tomorrow's Saturday the 16th.
16th.
Saturday
yeah.
the 16th.
And then the actual street date is going to be next Saturday, which is a day.
It's the 20-something.
Yeah.
22nd?
Gotta-
23rd?
It's the 23rd. Yeah. Calendar on my phone says 23rd.
There you go. So coming quick. So hopefully you pre-ordered because this is
I'm getting the book and the new character, Lord Villier. Blah, blah.
He's got a disgusting name.
you're not a real fan if you don't know how to pronounce it. Just saying.
Well, it's new.
I don't words no good, okay?
He's nice and ugly. Has a nice, fat looking belly.
He's basically a Chaos Lord and Terminator armor with a flamer, the Death Guard flamer.
So,
Nice.
no, you go ahead. You wanted to
So
talk about what some of the stuff that's coming
Yeah.
out this week.
so with the combat patrol box for Death Guard, it's a pretty good value. You're getting Typhus, you're getting the Biologist Putrefrier, and you're getting 30 Poxwalkers. Which, I mean, for me, the Poxwalkers are alone enough to buy the box. You're getting 30 of them.
Yeah, these boxes have been averaging between, I think, 40 and 45% discount, basically. Just savings on their own. I mean, they're really good.
I'm not crazy about Typhus being in the box, just as a named character. I know a lot of people are stoked for named characters being in boxes, but I already have him.
Oh yeah.
I'm pretty big in converting anyway, so I'll turn him into something else.
Yeah.
It won't be a big
He
deal.
can be bits for some other lord or
Yeah.
something
The,
down the
the
road.
cool thing they have about these combat patrols and almost all the new codexes is they actually have a way, especially I think it's with the campaigns, where basically they have
Yeah.
something where you can just use this combat patrol specifically. So you buy this and you can start playing them in a campaign already.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
They kind of have that kind of preset per army, which is pretty cool.
Do they have like stratagems and stuff unique to them?
I mean, stuff that's in that campaign is specific to that campaign.
It's meant to, these new combat patrols are meant to be played out of the box, whereas
Right.
the old Start Collecting, you still had to do some tweaking and
It was
add to get 'em playable.
it was good value, but you couldn't just use just that.
Right.
You needed more.
About how many points is that?
I
reckon?
think these are
Around
500.
they're around like between 450 500 points.
If you're playing
Power
Wizardry.
level, they're trying to keep them a certain power level. And that's
Gotcha.
kind of what they're doing because they still use that basic power level for a lot
Yeah.
of beginners.
Right.
Yeah, they teach beginners power level, but we play with points more often than not,
Yeah.
so I don't remember the.
And
power
they've been doing
levels.
that power level for quite a few editions, and it's again something they still use for beginners, but it's never like it's still overall everybody uses points,
Well,
which
'cause
I
it's
think is
not-
funny.
So, it's not as accurate.
Yeah.
The power level applies to the unit no matter what the loadout
Yeah,
is.
and that is the thing. You can change
So
weapons
you
and
could-
stuff in there. It doesn't matter.
Give them the max loadout with the craziest weapons they have, and the power level generally does not change.
Right.
Yeah,
So it's where it really comes in handy is when you're playing large scale games, because there's just less math involved, and when you have that many models on the board, it doesn't matter that it's that balanced.
Right. That makes sense.
yeah. And then
So-
with the campaign and stuff like that. Now the campaigns are based on power level, right?
Crusade is power level.
The Crusade,
yeah.
Crusade is based on power level.
And Crusade is a lot of fun.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that does give you the ability to kind of max out what you're
Well,
taking in your
But
Crusade.
but Crusade's not about balance, right? It's about the
Not
narrative
necessarily.
that comes
well,
with it.
And here's the deal with Crusade too. For one, you got to keep the numbers smaller to keep the math more manageable. But your Crusade army, you have a pool to choose from. So you start your Crusade with 50 power level. you build out 50 power level worth of stuff, and then you have points that you can spend on additional things. So with those points, you can buy more power level for your pool.
Okay.
You buy them in 5 power level increments, and then you can add more stuff to your pool. But that's not your army you're playing with. That is the troops that you get to choose for whatever game you're playing. Your game you set at whatever level you want to,
Right.
based on what you can field out of your list.
Yeah. So you're just drafting every time.
So,
Okay.
with that being said, but also once you add a unit to your crusade, you can't change the loadout.
They're in it.
So it's not like you're swapping out for better weapons every time. Once they're in it as they're set.
You're just adding units down
Yeah.
the road, but
Yeah.
the units stay fixed.
So it makes sense for Crusade. It makes it a lot more manageable, which I recommend Crusade for anybody that is wanting to give 40K
I think it's a
try.
good option for to what like a slow grow league kind of used to be, right?
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Well, you're building as you go, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I've played 2 Crusade games now, and the after battle stuff's a lot of fun. Getting to
See who got better.
see who got better, see who got
who's
worse.
never coming back.
My first game, I had a unit of Plague Marines that decided to go kill everything, so I got to upgrade them, and so now my sergeant has a damage 2 bolter.
So characters do still change in Crusade. Like do like your I accidentally opened a browser window for no reason. There we go. So in addition to going through Crusade, in addition to adding units, do your units what happens to existing units? Do characters gain experience? and
Yes,
stuff?
everything can gain experience.
okay.
So they basically bring in the role playing aspect into
Right.
Yeah.
40K.
And so my
is
last
great.
game, I had a sorcerer that died. So when you die, you can either choose to not take the experience for the game or take a scar. And I wanted to keep the experience, so I just took a battle scar. And for my crusade, he lost his leg, so now he moves slower.
I gotcha.
It's 40K
Okay.
legacy.
That's fine. I mean, it's dabbling into, what's funny is this is something GW has done for a while. Like this started with Necromunda back in the
Oh, yeah.
90s. That kind of campaign version, and it wasn't perfectly, it wasn't perfect. You got, as your Necromunda gang kind of went through, and they started with Blood Bowl too, Blood Bowl
Yeah.
leagues. Like as you went to a certain kind of delta level, it kind of stopped being fun, so you'd restart and start a new gang or team or whatever. So I'd be curious to see like what long-term road Crusade looks like, or do they,
Yeah.
you
Well, I think you can get a decent amount of longevity out of it because it takes you several games to build up enough points to buy enough power level to get to a full 2,000 point game.
yeah.
I mean, it's going to take a while.
So then,
Unless you just...
so then what you do is after everybody gets all their Crusade armies to like 2,000 points, then you have a tournament,
Yeah.
an actual match play tournament with it.
Crusade, that's something I'm trying to work on a list right now. I'm just trying to decide, do I want to use my Blood Angels or do I want to start kind of getting deeper into my AdMech? So
Well,
trying to figure out what army I want to play with. So I know Blood Angels are nasty.
Timing
so-
right now, your Blood Angels actually have their Crusade rules.
Yes,
whereas
and that is also true. Yeah, they have their own, because each codex that's coming out is having an entire section in the codex specifically about
Yeah.
the Crusade rules.
Does
So,
does Crusade allow for allies? Is that even a thing in 40K?
yes, absolutely.
Anymore? Okay.
The big thing is if you take allies, a lot of your rules kind of
Yeah.
go to the side. You can still absolutely do it. Now, there's non-aligned stuff, so kind of like, with, they don't call it non-aligned in 40K, but like assassins and, some of the guys like that, those can kind of go in any Imperial army.
Gotcha.
But it's only Imperials that really get that.
Yeah.
So the way it works is everything in your army has to share at least one keyword.
Okay.
Be that Chaos, Imperium, or Xeno.
Imperium.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But everything in a detachment has to share 2 keywords. So if you are going to ally, you have to have at least 2 detachments.
Okay. So your allies would
So
go in one. Okay,
it's
that makes
basically
sense.
like you're still taking 2 forces.
Right.
Right, but they're their own things. Now, what's good about that is those detachments, they'll still benefit from their keys.
Right.
That just your ally wouldn't benefit from your stuff.
Well,
Unless it's a keyword that actually matters for both.
Well, there's a lot of stuff. They started this when the new Space Marines started getting all of their sub codexes, where you only got to use like the Imperial Fist only get to use the Imperial Fist rule if your whole army is
Yeah,
Imperial
and that's
Fist.
called Battleforged, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so your Battleforged is
Which is a harken back to what they started that back in 7th edition with the
everybody
Battleforged
is-
and,
yeah.
and
if your entire
Unbound.
army is this,
Yeah.
then you get this.
They started the special rules with that at the very end of 8th.
Okay. Yeah.
So speaking of the Nurgle, though, so everything else that kind of comes out this next week, of course, the new Death Guard Codex, the Special Edition Codex, which is basically the same thing with a little less, as comic book people, we call them virgins, but it does still have a little bit of text on there. So not completely. We call it a minimal.
Both hardcover, right?
Both
Everything-
hardcover. The regular Death Guard Codex, of course, you can get that from your local gaming store. You can reach out to us, or, of course, GamesWorkshop.com. The special edition version, that's going to be GamesWorkshop.com. The new Death Guard data cards. It's going to have all your basic stratagems and stuff like that in there. And then, of course, the army-specific stuff to the Death Guard.
I personally never use the cards now that they've done away with the.
I think for a new person that may not know and they don't want to flip through their codex, if there's certain
I usually
stratagems or psychic powers that you're taking, I think it's good for that.
I usually just use sticky notes and like dog ear my codex.
I-
Yeah,
well,
and
I would-
I just got tabs.
I would
in
say
mine as
having
well.
something to me, the only benefit to them would be having some kind of physical representation of the rule on the table with you.
So you don't
And
forget it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's more a reminder than anything.
Yeah, 'cause
you'll
I'm
look
terrible
down
at that.
you'll look down in front and be like, oh, I
Yeah.
need to start.
It's where you
using
wake
that
up in the
rule.
middle of the night and you go, crap. I probably could have done that.
Yeah.
Of course, the Combat Patrol, which Brandon just went over, the new character who looks nasty, and I'm sure he's going to be nasty. Of course, every new 40K, kind of like what they did with Sigmar, has been getting a new piece of terrain that's specific to them. So Death Guard is getting a new piece of terrain. We'll see. Most of these have all been defensive things to kind of help.
So
no one's really I've seen use them yet.
Yeah, the Death Guard one buffs allies nearby, and it hurts any enemies that get too close to it.
Is it just a big wall of flesh?
It's like a furnace.
Yeah, yeah, and then of course the reboxing of the Poxwalkers, going from 7 miniatures to 10 miniatures. I'm sure all of the Death Guard people are hoping that this means eventually Plague Marines will be reboxed and be 10 models
Yeah.
instead of 7.
I get the whole like novelty of boxing them in 7s, but when you can buy a box of intercessors for the same box of Plague Marines and you get 3 more Marines in the intercessor box, like that's kind of lame.
Some guy in that strategy room was like, you know what? We're gonna box them in 7s, and here's why.
They're going to be cool.
They're
with
going to
it.
be like, it's cool, and then they're going to
more-
be like, we'll spend the extra money for the other 3. It's no big deal. Yeah, they want the 10.
I would just buy the 7. I would end up buying 2 7-man boxes.
Yeah.
And then have 4 left over to convert to characters or something.
Yeah, so it's
No, just buy 7. So you just have 70. So now you have
Right.
7 groups. If you
No,
need.
I couldn't afford 7. Okay.
Not 7. You have
10.
10.
You'd have to buy 10 of them.
yeah 10. I was like, wait, that math's
Sorry.
not right.
49 almost gets you to 5. So there you go.
And then of course, a lot of this stuff that's going to be Games Workshop only. Now, a lot of your local comic book stores still can, or not gaming stores, can still order this kind of stuff from GW's Workshop, their website. Middle Earth has a lot of stuff coming out next week. We've got new Frodo Baggins, Samwise, Elves. I mean, there's quite a few things coming out for Middle Earth as far as Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit games go.
I always forget that's still a game.
Yeah. So, and then of course Necromunda has some new beast coming out. The Fear Cats. Not sure how you would say them.
Spell it.
Phyrr. I think it'd be fear.
Yeah.
They look pretty cool. Pretty nasty. So those are coming out next
They
week.
remind me of the some of the Chaos Beasts that they put out for Warcry.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. Yeah, you're right. But they're kind of like I don't know, some weird looking.
Are they like the Corn Bloodhounds? They have like the
They're a lot
fins?
like that. They don't. They more have like a spines down their back as opposed to the like dinosaur lizard fin
Gotcha.
collar.
More like a saber-toothed tiger looking thing.
Yeah.
The head still looks kind of like it's scully, but it looks pretty cool. And then of course for Forge World, some new Horse Heresy.
Night Lords.
Yep, Night Lords, and
People have been waiting for these for a long time. Also,
they look pretty epic.
They're Terminators.
Okay. So Night Lords, that's Conrad, right?
Yeah.
Cruz.
And then, of course, from the Black Library, we've got a couple of new novels. Fury of Magnus. This is Siege of Terra. Then you got the Lord of the Dark Millennium. Of course, this is a Dan Abnett collection, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is 5 of his most epic series stuck together. So Dan Abnett's been writing Games Workshop stuff for what, like 20 plus years, something like that.
Like probably since back in the Inferno comic days, which that would have been late 90s, because he had short stories and stuff in Inferno, if I remember correctly.
So we've got that, and then they've got a couple of other Vault stuff kind of that they're
Yeah,
doing.
they've got the special edition of the new Alfarius book and the special edition of the next Siege of Terra.
Yep.
But by the time you're listening to this, they're probably already gone.
They probably sold out.
Those sell out
Like within
in
5 minutes.
5-10 minutes.
Yeah, they go real
There's
quick.
2,500 copies available worldwide.
Yeah, that's crazy. So that's kind of what we see in coming out. So all this goes on pre-order tomorrow, which again is the
They will already
16th.
be on pre-order by the time you're
Oh,
watching.
yeah, Saturday here tomorrow. This will be released after that. Sorry,
Yep.
time frame.
Yeah.
We're time warping here.
Yep. So go make sure you pre-order, get what you can. The way things have been going, you may not be able to get it for at least a few more weeks if you don't get it right away. So make sure you let your gaming store know so they can grab it for you.
Yep.
So
All right. So the big discussion topic we wanted to bring up for today is not. This isn't our first podcast of 2021, but we kind of wanted to lay out our hobby resolutions, goals, gaming resolution and goals for 2021. So let's start with Tanner. Tanner, what are you hoping to play, start playing, accomplish this year?
So a couple of years ago, I didn't do it last year, but a couple of years ago, I kept track of the number of models I painted along with the point count.
Okay.
So I think I'm going to try that again this year, see how much I can get done. I want to try and
Okay.
get as much done as I possibly can. I just finished purchasing the rest of my Adeptus Mechanicus to get me up to 2,000 points there.
Everybody has an AdMech army.
They're really cool.
It's like everybody's got an army and then their AdMech army. It sounds like.
yeah, I think they're just awesome. When they first came out a couple years ago, I really, really wanted to get into them, and then of course that never happened. So when we started getting Games Workshop stuff, that was like the first thing
That's
I
kind of
started
how
snagging up.
It's kind of how I was too when I was very first looking at 40K. It's like these guys look really cool. There's just not very many options.
Yeah.
Well, then we got a big release of them
Yeah,
last
this
year.
last
So
year
now
they
there's
had-
a ton more stuff to choose
There's
from.
quite a bit of stuff to choose. Yeah.
But so my first goal is to get through those guys, get them built and painted here within the next few months. I'm on the fence right now as to whether I'm going to buy into Tau or the new Head Knights of Slaanesh for Age of Sigmar. So that's another goal to accomplish this year. It really is going to depend on if we see any Slaanesh releases to go with them with 40K.
Yeah.
Right.
Because
You want that to be a better investment there.
well, and I guarantee as soon as Fulgrim gets a 40K model, I'm going all in Emperor's Children.
Yeah. So Fulgrim he's a demon prince now.
Yeah.
So he's alive. He's just a demon prince.
Yeah.
No, didn't he get a newer model?
No. He got a Forge World model
He
several
has
years
he has
ago.
a 30K
that's what I'm
Primarch
seeing,
model.
Which
Yeah.
that model's great.
You could probably kit. I mean, well, I guess there's no rules for him either.
No, not in 40K.
Yeah, not in 40K. So
Yeah, but there's no way they're going to do just half the Chaos Gods or for 40K armies.
yeah.
Because we have Nurgle and we have Tzeentch right now with their own codexes.
Oh, okay, for 1,000 Suns.
Yeah.
So does Magnus have a 40K?
Yeah, Magnus has 40K.
Okay.
Magnus was the first Primarch back in 40K.
What about Angron?
We don't have a model for him yet either.
Okay.
So World Leaders and Emperor's Children, they have to be coming down the pipe eventually.
Yeah.
It would be nice to see more of the Primarch models. I know everybody wants that.
I would buy all the Primarchs.
Yeah.
I
It'd
mean,
be
now
great to have
now the Primarchs are even coming back for the loyalists.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, slowly, yeah.
and there are some that are still out there.
I think that's a big reason why the Dark Imperium.
Lions out there.
I think that's a big reason why the Dark Imperium novels are getting retconned, because they take place. Ninth edition takes place during the Indominus Crusade,
Right.
and 8th edition took place after the Indominus Crusade. So they're retconning this story from 8th edition to happen earlier in the Crusade instead of after it.
Really? Okay, I didn't realize it jumped back like that.
Yeah. So I think they're doing that because in the novels they don't mention any other Primarchs.
Right.
So they just set themselves in a position where they couldn't release anymore because they would have to have been in that story.
Because what loyalist Primarchs do we know that are dead? Sanguinius is dead.
You had to bring that up.
And
Sorry.
Ferrus Manus is
Ferrus
dead.
Manus is dead.
Everyone else is just missing or rumored dead.
Right. So everybody thinks Lion's dead.
No, everybody knows Lion's just sleeping.
Okay, that's right.
And now everybody thinks that Rogel Thorn is dead,
Right.
but there's no concrete proof that he's dead. He could still come back.
And then Lehman Russ is missing.
Lehman Russ is missing.
Which I think people have been speculating he's going to be a release at some point soon.
Yeah,
That's
Space
a
Wolves are
big
too
speculation.
popular.
Yeah.
The Khan and
Jagatai Khan.
yeah, and Korax are in the warp.
Okay. Is Vulcan alive?
Vulcan's alive, but he's missing.
Okay.
Vulcan's a perpetual, so
Okay.
he's always alive.
Gotcha. And then Alfarius is probably alive. He's not
So-
loyalist. He's traitor, maybe.
Now the whole Alpha Legion deal.
Yes.
No one knows who Alfarius
Right.
So,
I
but
am
if you're going by the current believed lore, Alfarius is dead. but
Omegon
is alive.
Is alive, and one was loyalist and one was traitor. Is that the kind of the rumor?
That's kind of the rumor, and the rumor is that Alfarius was truly the traitor and Omegon is the loyalist.
And he's just playing a long game.
yeah.
Dun dun dun.
Drama.
Right.
Yeah, I really like Tau just because I like Gundams, so I'm probably going to build some Gundams too.
Yeah, so that's the same thing. Like Tau, I love the way they look.
Yeah.
They're kind of garbage on the table right now, but
Yeah.
I don't play to win, so it's not that big a deal.
If I would think if I got back into it,
Get back into it.
so Dark Angels was my first 40k army,
Okay.
Yeah.
and then
That's about to have a brand new release, so that's going to be tempting.
I dabbled in Necrons a little bit when they first came out at the end of second edition.
And they are very good now.
Yeah. I think though, if I was going to get back into it, I'd probably do Harlequins. And I think for me, like Harlequins, I think is probably not attractive to a lot of people because their unit choices probably one of the smallest in 40k.
But
Yeah.
they're right now, they're good.
Yeah, like they bounce around all over the place. They're in
It's-
and out of
The
engagements.
entire game is about board control,
Yeah,
and you can do that with them.
I mean that is literally coming from fantasy. That is an entire army of war dancers.
Yeah.
Of Wood Elf war dancers. I mean, that's essentially the evolution of them, right? Are the Harlequins, and I just like their aesthetic and everything. I've always liked the Eldar as a whole, the Eldari, and then
I like elves, but I don't like space elves.
like Space
I
Elves
don't like space elves. Keep your elves in fantasy.
That's why he wants to play Tau. He hates elves.
because how many Eldar armies? There's the Drukari, there's the Dark Eldar,
Yeah.
there's the Harlequins,
Then there's the Craft World,
the Craft World
Worlds.
Elders,
and then there's the Yunari, which are like the
High Elf.
they encompass
High-Elf.
all of them. They follow the god of death, and they're slowly trying to revive the Eldar by reviving this god of death. So they have Craft World followers. They have dark elves within them. It's basically all of the Eldar.
Eldar, not elves. They're not elves. They're Eldar.
They're elves. They're space elves.
But so you're looking at Tau.
Looking at Tau. Looking at Slaanesh.
So how many points do you think would be a successful year? How many units?
I think the last time I kept count, I was close to. I was somewhere between 15 and 20,000 points by the end of the year.
Okay.
I had a Titan in there. I had a Warhound Titan in there too, so that was 2,000 points on its own, and I had a bunch of Knights. But I'm gonna see if I can get as much done as I can. I also want to get in some. There's a couple indie games I'd like to try and get into if I can talk anybody into.
Well, so you also bought it real quick. Staying at GW, you also bought into Blood Bowl, which we
Yes.
haven't started yet because things have happened.
But yeah, I got the Shambling Dead. The army itself is painted. I need to
You
finish.
still don't know how to play the game.
I don't know how to play the game, but you're gonna teach
do
me
this.
We're going to do
eventually.
some bat reports specifically for that. It's gonna
I
be
did
pretty
get
awesome.
some Necromunda too. I got
Yep.
Kador and Escher.
Yeah.
So get some smaller
Something else
games
we
in
plan
there. There's a game called Bushido that I'd like to try and get into.
That one has been making. I've been hearing a little bit about it here. and
I've
there.
been following ever since that company started several years ago, just wanting to get in, and it's slowly getting more popular. They've added a couple factions since I started looking into them. And then there's another game, I think it's called Godslayer, that I'd like to try and get into.
Awesome.
And it's like it's a fantasy skirmish game, but instead of like your medieval kind of aesthetic, it's classical. So they have like Roman looking guys,
Oh,
and
okay.
Greek looking guys.
more,
So,
more Hellenistic
yeah.
type.
That's about it.
mythological.
That's about it for me.
Okay, Chris.
Howdy. All right, so my my 2021 hobby and gaming goals. I'm going to kind of break this down from publishers, kind of like we just did there. With Games Workshop, as far as I want to go, the things I've played in the past, of course, Blood Angels, Dark Angels, which I don't think I'm going to dabble into Dark Angels. I'm going to kind of stick to just the Blood Angels.
There's probably
Pick an angel and stick with it.
Well,
yeah,
pick a-
that's kind
pick
of
a-
what
pick
I
a
think.
chapter and stick with
I think
it,
that's what
really.
I'm going to do. I
Well-
may dabble into some of the other non-marine armies, which
Yeah.
I've got AdMech.
So my way around picking a chapter is my Space Marines I did as the Last Wall Protocol. So they're all technically Imperial Fists, but I just paint one unit as the successor, one unit as the successor, one unit of actual fists, and
Yeah, we've got
That way-
one of our guys, Stetson. He's doing.
he does Crimson.
He does Crimson Fist, but he's also currently building another Marine army that's kind of just painted whatever.
Yeah.
So he can make it whatever.
He's gonna do them as Red Scorpions.
Yeah, Red Scorpions, but he's going to be. He wants to play him. So he can play him as Blood Angels, or he can play him
Yeah.
as a successor chapter or his own chapter. So he's kind of just doing that right now,
Yeah.
which is a good way of kind of getting around. But so the Blood Angels, I'm sticking with those. I've got pretty much what I want as far as what's released. Of course, one more stuff gets released, like Heavy Intercessors, things like that. I'm definitely going to be adding those. But I've got I probably got around 3,000 points of Blood Angels already. So now the goal is to get them all painted and put together. I've got a little wall of
you
shame
need is-
starting to stack up over in my
All you need is
closet.
a rattle can of red, and you're done.
Most of mine are red. That they've at least been primed and cleaned and put together. But I have a few tanks I need
That
to get
hurts.
together, and then of course the new Blood Angel Combat Patrol. I haven't had a chance to get that together yet. So I need to get all that stuff together, get it painted. I've got probably around 1,300, 1,400 points painted so far, which is pretty good. And then at my AdMech, man, I've only got one squad painted, but there's a lot of stuff that's
Again, rattle can of red.
and again, almost all of it is red.
Hey, I'll make a concession.
So-
just get a kind of a brownish reddish wash bath and just dip,
Yeah,
and you're done.
that's army painter style right there.
There you go.
Yeah, where they have all their dip inks and dip things like that. So AdMech, I've got all that almost put together. I just got some, like Tanner did. We got some stuff in, just kind of finish up what I have.
We got a huge order the other day. Didn't
Yeah. Our first big reorder this week was humongous because Games Workshop shut down ordering for 3 weeks. So
Right.
that restock was fat. So my AdMech stuff, so I've got Belso's Call and all that kind of stuff now. So we'll be finishing those up, putting them all together. I would like to get both those armies painted by the end of the year. That'd be a pretty good goal. Other things, of course, Blood Bowl. That's actually I've kind of paused on my other stuff because the red's hurting me, and I'm waiting for one paint to come in from Games Workshop. So it should be here this next week before I can start painting my.
Are you going to do them close to the studio paint job?
Yeah, I kind of like it that way. I just
That
feel
gold and
So you're
Yeah.
doing the Bretonians, right?
Imperial
Yeah.
nobility.
I was going to say Bretonia, but I knew Brandon would correct me because they're Bretonians.
Imperial nobility. So the reason we call them Bretonian is they are loosely based off of a unofficial Blood Bowl team that was kind of released.
Okay.
That was never part of a main game. It was just kind of all of it like an optional type test beta. And so they're kind of an evolution of that team.
So as soon as that paint comes in, I'll be knocking those out.
Since we're on the game, did y'all see that the undead are getting a character for Blood Bowl?
They did.
Yes, Gretchen Wemart. It's something in German.
She hates playing Blood Bowl, but she does it.
Yeah,
kind of a thing.
she's an undead spirit lady. So yeah, everybody. There's a lot of star players in the game, and so what you have is every star player can play in different sub leagues. So you have the Sylvanian League, which is where undead or the Shambling Undead, the Necromantic Horrors, the Vampire Counts, the Tomb Kings all kind of fall into that, even though the Tomb Kings aren't Sylvanian. That's just kind of where they group them. And then you have the Old World Alliance, which is the dwarves, the humans, the halflings, and then you have the Elven Kingdoms, which is pro elves, wood elves, high elves, dark elves. So like your star players have their list of which ones
Right.
they can and can't play for.
Yeah.
And so she can technically play for any of the undead armies, not just Shambling, but
She's a free agent.
Yes. So what happens? How Blood Bowl works is, I have my team and it has its team value, and I go to play Tanner, who has his team value, which could be different. When we create our teams, their default team value is 1,000, right? But if I've saved up a bunch of money from previous matches and I haven't spent it yet, and I think this is going to be a particularly tough match, I can spend that money to bring in a star player. They're only going to play for that game, and they're not going to gain any experience. They're not going to gain any injuries because when they're done,
They're already studs.
yeah, they're already beefed up,
Yeah.
and they'll come in for that game and play and then leave. Or another way I could do that is if our team values are spread apart, like I'm 1,200 and you're 1,000, you're going to get 200,000 gold in petty cash just to spend to handicap you back in, right?
Okay.
To kind of balance everything out. Now, there's other things besides star players you can spend that money on.
Yeah.
You can get extra re-rolls and stuff like that. But star players are kind of a neat thing to do. A lot of leagues, what people will do is, everybody will get different, star players and stuff, and kind of make like a star player pool, and only one person can use that star player per match, kind of a thing, and people can borrow in,
That's a cool way of doing it.
Yeah.
So that way you're not just like wasting money on a model
Yeah.
you get to use once every 10 games or something.
Exactly. What you might run into now though, is you may be the only undead player, and so you're technically
Like
on
we've talked about before, it's like you got to build your community up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what we're trying to do with a lot of the games we're getting into. We're kind of trying to be that pivotal, because here where we are locally, we have 40K. We know people play that, and we have Star Wars X-Wing. And really outside of that, I don't know. I mean, we used to have other games people played, but
Most of those communities have died as people drifted apart.
yeah, I know X-Wing is. I still see some things here and there on some of the community
Yeah.
pages here locally, but even that, I don't really see a whole lot of it
It's
anymore.
been weird. So
And I know that's kind of a big deal because X-Wing is going to Atomic Mass Games.
yeah.
With
And
them
they've
switching
so
that.
Fantasy Flight has kind of had some COVID has hit them pretty hard. They've let go a bunch of their
Now, they
miniatures
did-
development.
They did a lot of
people
this before
before
COVID.
So they had already let go a bunch of their development staff and their organized play staff, and then they made the call to kind of move them to Atomic Mass, all under the same corporate umbrella, but just a different studio.
It's still all Asmodee,
Yeah.
or however you want to say their name. So
They're moving all their miniatures properties under that umbrella, which it's fine. Now, as far as what employees moved, what that's going to do for the game's development,
it's still yet to be completely seen what the full picture is.
yeah,
Yeah, we're still waiting for the complete transition to go from one to the other.
yeah. So anyway,
So other last Games Workshop product, of course, Necromunda. We've got the big starter box back in here. Started putting the terrain together. God, there's a lot of terrain in that big, huge starter box, which is awesome because we need it here at the store. And then, of course, I'm going to put both those games together. And then,
So is that Goliath and Escher in that box, or is that a different?
no, it's the Enforcers
Oh,
and
that's right.
basically Chaos. I can't remember what they are.
Oh, it's like the blood
Cultists.
cult. Yeah,
Yeah.
blood skull. Cult.
Yeah, they're not the traditional Necromunda 6 house gangs.
Yeah. So, but the Enforcers are probably who I'll go with out of that box. They look really cool. It gives you a really good set of stuff out of there. I mean, the box is a little pricey, but I mean, the amount of stuff you get in that box is just
Yeah.
crazy.
Going off, so like back when I played original Necromunda back in the 90s, like you had the 6 gangs, the 6 gang houses, and then you had like all the outliers. So you had the Redemptionists and the Enforcers and stuff like that, and the Spires. But they were so different that to me, like long term, playing a campaign with them wasn't that fun. They weren't as deep campaign wise. They didn't grow the same way the house gangs went.
Yeah.
I haven't looked into them enough.
And
in
as
the
far as
new
I know,
rules.
there's supposed to be more gang stuff coming out this year. Like they're teeing it up to have a pretty big year for 2021 for
Yeah.
Necromunda. So they've been teasing that quite a bit.
Yeah, 'cause we still do have, there still are the outliers, but also one of the books has rules for building your own gang,
Oh,
which
yeah.
I plan on giving that a whack too.
Yeah. Outside of Games Workshop, of course, 2 big games I want to start getting into. I've already got of course, I just talked about Atomic Mass Games a second ago with bringing in Star Wars, but Marvel Crisis Protocol. I mean, this game has started just this kind of last year. From a little thing to now, I mean, it's getting to be a pretty big thing.
Yeah, it was-
and the models look great. I've got the starter pack at home. I've built half of it already. I just need to get it finished up. That's probably my only complaint so far is some of the miniatures. Like, why is Captain Marvel's arm 2 pieces? You know, and
Which
it's
you
like
see that with a lot of companies, though.
big. You know what I mean? And it's 2
Yeah.
pieces, so it's like, you know, you're definitely, you know, get some tweezers for this set. You
Like
know,
I dealt with that putting my Blood Bowl team together. Some
Yeah.
of the skeletons, you had to, their boots have these little like wings on them, kind of like
Hermes, Mercury.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You had to glue the little fin on its
yeah,
boot.
and that was
Like,
the same
stuff
way
like
with the
that.
stuff. The stuff out of
I-
even the starter box was that way.
I've been putting antenna on Pano models
Yeah.
for years. I
Yeah.
have no
Now,
sympathy for you
thankfully, these are plastic and not pewter or metal. So they they do go together once you get them there pretty quickly. You don't have to worry about them falling apart like metal. Because it would be, I don't even know how you would pin something that small. You can't.
I mean,
I don't think you could.
there's no way I could
So
put together an Infinity Army without a glue brand that has an activator.
yeah.
Like I do not have the patience to sit
Sit
there
there,
with metal.
yeah.
So,
pewter
and
models.
then of course outside of so this Crisis Protocol, I want to get this stuff together. I want to start building this up a little bit. It's a small based game. You don't need a lot of miniatures. It looks like it'd be fun and fast to play. And then of course Infinity, I definitely want to get back into that. That was one of my favorite games when we were playing it back.
Yeah.
So, and of course Space Pirates got some new stuff coming out. I love the Nomads. I would like to look into some of the other factions, but I don't know. Space Pirates they got my attention.
Space pirates? I don't know if they're
They're
pirates.
Space Pirates.
They are space. Depends on the ship. Corregidor are the space mercenaries. Bakkanen are the space crazy scientists, because they like to just do experiments
Yep.
on things and make cat people, make furries. And then Tunguska are space bankers. They're like they're kind of the offshore holding. They're like the Cayman Islands of the human sphere, right? That's where you kind of hide your money and
Yep.
stuff like that. That's what Tunguska is. And then there's the unspoken. They don't have a nomad ship, but there's the Black Lab, or the Praxis Lab. I can't remember exactly what it is. That's kind of where the things you don't talk about happen. So yeah. So for me, I've kind of been out of tabletop for so long, just kind of dabbling to get back into it. I don't really want to commit to anything just huge scale hobby wise, because like I said, hobby has never been my favorite part of it.
Right.
I want to play the game, and so small scale games like Blood Bowl, possibly Necromunda, but probably more if outside of Blood Bowl. Infinity is definitely one. I mean, that's just that's kind of my bread and butter. So it's either going back to my Pano army. I really want to try O12. O12 just looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I've been thinking
that
if-
wasn't something that was there last time. I
No,
played.
that released early 2019 is when they started.
If I jump
12?
back into Infinity, I think I'm going to do Yu Ching.
Yuching, yeah, it's a good time too. I mean, like I said, the 4 Code 1 armies are pretty good jump back in points, right? So Pano, Yuching, O12, and combined, which the combined is out of Code 1 is mostly Shazvasti.
Okay.
There's a little bit of other stuff in it, but for the most part, it's Shazvasti. Pano and Yuching, for the most part, their Code 1 stuff is going to be from their Slarheima Pano.
The Ice Planet.
Yeah, and then the White Banner Yuching, which also they put on the Ice Planet. That's kind of the new one of the new hot zone is Slarheima,
Okay.
where Pano and Yuching are fighting. And now in the lore of Infinity, the big flashpoint is no longer Paradiso. The combined army has moved off Paradiso and is now hitting the rest of the inner sphere.
So did they win at Paradiso?
I will say they didn't win, but the human sphere didn't win either.
Yeah.
So it's just the Toha kind of took one for the team a little bit to kind of close the combined army off, but the combined army is moving on and starting to, for people not familiar with Infinity, think of the combined army like the Covenant from Halo. It's kind of a union of different alien races that are kind of either conquered or voluntary, based on different aspects or whatever.
They're very join us or die kind of
Yes.
thing.
Yeah, and they're just gonna consume everything to try to find transcendence. Is what the EI that controls them, the evolved intelligence that controls them, is trying to find transcendence. And they think the key of that is in the human sphere by conquering it. So yeah, it'd either be Pano or O12. I've always had, I have faction envy with all of them. There's always something about them that
Oh man,
yeah.
wish I could. I want that.
Things like playing the JSA, the Japanese sectorial army, and those always looked intriguing, and Aleph did, which O12 borrows a lot of Aleph stuff because O12 and Aleph are very tight aligned. O12 got their first sectorial, the Starmada, which they have an action pack they just announced coming out really soon. So an action pack is
I think we looked at a new
Those are
model
3
from
models,
that
right?
last week.
no the action packs. The action packs are bigger.
Oh, okay. Those are kind of like basically.
They're not a full army box. They're the next step down.
Yeah.
And so Starmada's getting their action pack. Then the booster packs are the
3 models.
the 3 model
Yeah.
stuff that they're doing for Code 1. So yeah, it's that Blood Bowl. I also like playing a lot of just different board games and
Yep.
stuff. I've always been into just random board games. I'm trying to think of it's
I mean, we used to spend some time on Firefly and things like that. So
yeah, we played the Firefly game a lot.
I mean, that's like there's a lot of time to set up, but that was a lot of fun to play.
Yeah. And possibly getting back into some role playing games. Role playing games are getting easier to play online. There's a lot more virtual tabletop tools, and COVID has kind of forced people to be craftier about RPGs and stuff like that.
I found that one app. It's just called Roll,
Yeah.
and it's its own. I mean, it's similar enough to all the role playing games, but it's its own rule set.
Yeah.
But from what I can tell, like you don't even have to play together at the same time. You just log
Yeah.
in and you play your little portion, and then everyone plays their portion in
It's
accordance.
an interesting take on it. I kind of looked at it.
Blasting somebody's phone. It's your turn.
Yeah.
Well, but like that does alleviate some of the troubles there is with role playing in particular, because there's so many more players involved as getting schedules to line up to where everybody can be there for the session.
I have always, when I've game mastered RPGs in the past, like 5-player characters is my limit. And not so much that as a game master I can't handle 5-player characters. It's I can look around the table and you'll see somebody that's just kind of
they're waiting.
off in La La Land because you know so much other stuff is happening that
Right.
they're no longer engaged, and it's part of the game master's job to try to keep them engaged, but it's hard the more people you have. I think 3 people like in the game master is a pretty good sweet spot. You can kind of really keep people engaged and keep things moving at a good pace. But I've seen, I mean, we'd go to Table's Edge on a Wednesday night or whatever, and they'd have D&D groups with like nine people around the table. I'm like,
Yeah,
how do you sort it all out?
and they were
Yeah.
loud, and
Yeah.
they were going after it. I mean, they were into it. I'll give
And-
them that.
Well, and that's another thing that I've always struggled with getting into role play because I want to, but you kind of have to find people that are similar to you also because I'm not a person that totally gets into character.
Yeah.
I play the character in like third person kind of
I think
aspect.
for a lot of times, I kind of prefer the games that kind of give you that board.
Yeah, I very much
you're-
like
you're-
visual
Yeah,
models and terrain.
It
you
gives
know.
you. Well, I mean, you got just the board games already set up. Like
You-
one
you
guy
want-
is the
you-
board.
you want the-
everybody else is playing the board.
You want the tactical aspect of it.
yeah,
Yeah.
and everybody that way you're all working together. And you've got the
Yeah.
one guy that's the bad guy. And,
Yeah.
you
Yeah, because with a lot of role playing games, you either have the very gridded out tactical play, miniatures, grid maps, stuff like that, and then the other side of that is the kind of the mind's eye theater where everything's very abstract, and you're just how far away am I from this guy? You're about 20 feet away. Okay, add a plus whatever to your roll. So you're not really playing with a physical map. There's pros and cons to both of it.
Yeah.
But you just have to find the group that fits you better, or else it's not going to be fun.
Yeah. And it depends on the type of game you're playing too. D&D 4th edition was very much that that tactical board game. I hit the bottom of this thing.
Okay. I just keep hearing sounds. I'm like, what are these noises?
D&D 5th edition can kind of be both, but it kind of leans itself more towards the mind's eye theater, right? And if you have a bunch of board gamers or a bunch of tabletop gamers, put as much physical stuff on the table as possible. Make a tabletop
Make
game
it
out
visual.
of it.
Yeah.
So that's where like games like Imperial Assault and Descent are fun, like your dungeon crawlers.
And like me
Gloomhaven.
as a hobbyist, I'm the kind of person that if I were to game master, I would build an entire freaking city on that table.
Yeah. The problem with the con of that is, if I'm a game master, you may have to do things that kind of break the narrative to keep people
Entertained.
to keep people from going off the path that you've created, right?
Yeah.
So one of the struggles the game master have is kind of keeping people on the story path, right? Because
Side quests.
in your mind's eye, you can go off and do whatever, do anything, and a game master, they kind of encourage you to be. It's like improv. It's the yes and right. So if somebody's going off, see how you can work that in. But if you have all these like pre-made maps and all these miniatures, you can't go that far off. So you have to like bring them off, and sometimes it's hard to kind of bring it back onto the path to where it's contained, right? Now, some people understand inherently, players understand inherently that, if this is the map, well, this is where I can go, right? I can't do that weird thing that I was thinking of. I'm constrained to the board game aspect. And, like if you're playing with tabletop gamers or board gamers, that's almost okay. But if you're playing with very narrative focused, super creative, ideaed people, yeah, that may turn them off.
Yeah.
They're better off playing in that kind of that mind's eye
Paper
theater.
only.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, just like I said, maybe I'll paint something this year. I probably won't. I'll probably just see if Tanner will pay it. I'll just pay him to paint it.
I'll do it.
So
Are you at least going to put it together?
I'm going to add your points to my point count, though.
okay, that's fine. No, I'll glue them together. I need to buy some glue, by the way, and probably I need to get an X-Acto knife. I just like I said, it's just never been my jam. I don't have a good space for it. I don't. And plus, when I'm home, it's just like.
you've got two little ones.
I have two toddlers, and it's very
Like little
very
ones.
hard to carve out that amount of time and really hobby. But like I said, it's hard enough for me to find time to play the game, much less.
That's kind
do
of
the
how I
hobby.
got into the hobby part more, is because it was easier for me to carve out time to hobby than it was to find another person a game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that is the one part I'll say. Like my two boys are big enough now that they hobby with me.
Yeah.
So
And I've done that with my kids before. I won't get them Games Workshop models, but I'll go get them a little Reaper Bones model.
yeah,
And
and that's kind
some
of what they've started. They
watercolors.
want to paint this,
So,
but they
real
have
quick.
some GW stuff now they've been doing.
So this is off topic, but this just popped in my head. I've been hearing rumors of Privateer Press.
Going under
Yes.
I think they've been on that path for a long time.
the new release, the Warcaster.
Well, it hit in COVID, so that's already.
I think that was a big deal. I mean, their Kickstarter started right before basically everything hit the fan.
Yeah, I was gonna back it, but then I had to drop it because of lockdowns.
Yeah,
we
so
just
I-
didn't have the income for it anymore.
Stetson and I, both locally, we both got our Warcaster stuff. I've got it at home. It's sitting in boxes, but there's been, I mean, I haven't seen it pop up anywhere on anybody's networks or anything like that. So
Well, so I was trying to sell a bunch of stuff a few months ago, and I couldn't give my Privateer Press stuff away.
yeah, it's just when you as a company make it so hard to get into for a local comic store or a local game store to carry your product. I mean, that's your lifeline.
Well, and what hurts me about it is I love the Iron Kingdoms. That's my first real adventure into tabletop land, and just the lore fascinating. I've read every bit of Iron Kingdoms lore there is,
Yeah.
and it's awesome. It's good stories, but then as far as gameplay, they cater to competitive players only.
Now, I think
To the point that if you're just playing for fun, it's not fun anymore.
Well, weren't they doing? They were going to do like a dungeon crawler game, where they did it.
Well, they started out as a role playing company.
Right. Yeah. It was a D20. It was Iron Kingdoms was a D20, but no, like I was like
Well, they-
2015 or so. They were doing like a Descent style, like Gloomhaven style game.
they
Yeah,
had a
it was
couple of
called
box
the
games.
Undercity.
Yeah.
It took place in the Undercity of Corvus,
Yeah.
and it was a box game. I don't think they ever updated outside of the box
Yeah.
itself.
Then they had High Command, which was their card game, which
Mm-hmm.
was. I wanted that to be good, and it just was not. It was.
They have
So
enough
boring.
content. They have enough lore. I mean, I could see if that really was the case, somebody coming in and saying,
I know they're
we'll take the content.
I know they're
'Cause it's worth it.
fixing. They're trying to push Iron Kingdoms as a role playing game really hard again. So I could see them scaling back to just a role playing company.
I think it'd be in their best interest to go back and do 5e, just do D&D 5. Go back to being a D&D module.
Well, that's the thing. I think. No, I don't know about the very, very first iteration, but Iron Kingdoms is a D6.
Well, it started. If I remember, it started as a D20, like back when 3.5 edition. So Iron Kingdom started as D20.
I'll have to look at what rulebook edition I have for Iron Kingdoms because it's very much set up to play along
Right.
with War
So
Machine.
they started Iron Kingdoms as a D20. They liked the world, so they started War Machine as the. Then they came back and did Iron Kingdoms in its own rule set. So instead of borrowing D&D 3.5 edition, they came back and made the Iron Kingdoms in its own rule set that kind of borrowed from.
See, I have the
tabletop
rulebook
rules.
for its own rule
Yes,
set.
yeah. So yeah, that definitely happened. With the popularity of 5e, like D&D 5th edition, I wonder if it wouldn't just them because they can still license 5e to bring it back into that and play it because it'd be. I mean, it's a neat, unique world.
At their biggest peak, it was easy to get the models.
Yeah.
They were doing everything the Games Workshop wasn't doing, right?
Yeah.
Well, and that
Everything
was-
that they wanted GW to do, Privateer Press was saying, okay, we'll do that.
Well, yeah.
And
We'll
then-
make an app. We'll make it where you can use this. We'll do this army builder thing.
GW started listening to what people wanted and put out 8th edition, and everyone went back to 40K.
Yeah.
Well, and I think I would say War Machine was probably the kind of the resurgence of the small unit or the small model count.
Yep.
That's where War Machine started, but then War Machine started creeping into.
Yeah, you
it
needed
got to
more
where
and more.
it got to where you weren't taking jacks, you were taking large units.
And they did fix that when they came out with their 3rd edition.
yeah.
They made it to where you mostly took jacks, and if you had points left over, you took units.
Yeah, which I think is great because, I didn't the lure of War Machine to me was the jacks. That's what was unique about them.
Yeah.
You know, that aspect of them, how the Warcaster interacted with the jacks, and just all of that. The units were like, they're outside of that, right? They're not part of that ecosystem.
Yeah, they're really just there to kind of fill out the universe.
They were filler, and then it became, you know, towards the end of second edition where they were it.
Yeah.
You know, solos and units were just like,
Yeah, because
Yeah,
people
they
could
were
do so
really
much stuff with
powerful.
them. Yeah, I mean, I would like, because I like that game.
yeah,
Warm Hordes, all of it. I think it was great. I would like to see it come back and be something that people want to carry in their stores, that people want to
And,
play.
like I still have all of my Signar. I have a vast majority of my Scorn, and I have all of my Minoth.
yeah.
And I'd be down to play, but I don't know. They're gonna have to make some major changes before I invest any more money into
Yeah,
it.
and I think that's the case. Is I think people don't trust the brand right now. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Well, and it was not. I think it was 2019. A ton of their super high executives left.
Yeah,
Like the main rule writer and their in-house painter, and a bunch of, and all these presidents have a. That's one thing about Privateer Press. All these guys had a very high presence on social media with the players, and so when you see these people leave the company, you start to think, "Oh, what's going on?"
Yeah.
yeah.
Is it something I'm still a part of? Is this still something I can be a part of?
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, that's sad that if that is the case, if that's where Privateer Press is going, that's.
But I feel like we had this. I mean, of course, not like on a podcast, but at one point we had this conversation about Games Workshop before they changed presidents and they changed
Yeah.
leadership, and they started going into especially this last time around where they're doing play testing with people and
I don't know that
really voicing.
I don't know that I ever was so much worried about Games Workshop going under as much as being bought by
Somebody
a
else.
larger company that was just going to change.
And-
You know,
and
like
really-
like Hasbro sweeping in and picking up.
I could
Games
see
Workshop,
somebody
you know?
doing that with. I could see actually Hasbro sweeping in and picking up Privateer Press. They have kind of been doing
Yeah.
that here lately, or WizKid, something like that. You know, which I mean that's a very big.
Asmodee.
Yeah, Asmodee. Yeah,
A plus with that, if someone big picked up Privateer Press that had the capital to do so, maybe we could get plastic models.
yes, which would be great.
Oh, because they're doing resin now, aren't they?
They have a couple kits that are plastic, but they haven't redone the whole line.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
they're done with white metal, right?
Not necessarily.
Oh, they're still doing white metal. Yeah.
yeah. If some of their like,
I'm still partial to white metal. I want a big, chunky, heavy model.
I like the feel of the weight, but
when I got that Warcaster stuff in, I was like, oh my goodness, you're going to need some pins and some magnets, and I don't have that stuff, so you're staying in the box.
When I'm moving an infinity tag on the table, I want to know that thing is a big hunk of metal.
feels nice in your hand. But as far as like, it sucks putting together. There's no.
The final result, you're like, yeah, I did that.
Well,
But it's not cool when you first get it
well-
out of the box.
and there's no give and take as far as putting it together either. Whereas plastic models,
I just
It's
have all
real
these
easy
like terrible memories of when I was a kid and all the 40K models. You know, they all came in blisters, and I'm just sitting there with my fingers, and then I put that little piece together, and then I try to pull it apart, and it all comes together with my fingers, and I'm like, no, because it's like
it's
you
just-
start all over, and
with
you
a
got to
plastic
clean
kit,
it.
it's so much easier to have a multi-part kit
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
customize.
Yeah, that's true too. And not everybody's just sitting there with this, the static armies.
Corvus Belli. I don't see them moving to plastic anytime soon because here's the thing: is they could go to like kind of board game grade plastic. That's what they did with Aristea. That's what they did with Defiance, and your quality's not
right.
there.
I would
right?
rather have metal over board game plastic.
Yes. Now, but the jump to injection mold plastic
It's expensive. It's
is
for bigger
super
companies.
is super expensive to get that quality. I don't see Corvus Belli doing it anytime soon.
It's so the injection plastic is cheaper when you're really moving product.
yeah,
because
Mass,
you don't have
mass,
to replace
mass.
the molds as often.
right,
But if you're not selling just thousands and thousands of models,
right.
then resin and metal is the way to go.
Yeah, and don't get me started on resin.
Yeah, or fine cast.
Oh gosh, I remember what was
I
it?
don't mind resin as long as it's not Forge World resin.
What was it? I remember like Darren got a thing of Death Krieg in.
Well, they're Forge World. That was the problem.
Yeah.
Not
Well,
that they were
the
resin.
Death Krieg Darren got. We're not going to talk about where they came from.
Oh, okay. Who was it? Like
When he opened that box, Oh my! And it took a long time to stop smelling.
Now I've seen
That was intense. I'm
the
surprised
resin-
the
the
post
resin smell.
office was like, "There's a bomb in there." Like, I mean, it was bad.
one funny thing I've seen is I've seen Forge World models that are better than Forge World models.
Well, there's a lot of. I mean, the way that people can print stuff now. I mean, I see some people that have gone and like, yeah, okay, Games Work. I see you. I see what you were trying to do, but let me
Let
show
me
you
fix
what
it.
it's supposed to look like. And they print that. And I'm like, man, that looks cool.
resin printers are
So
cool.
you got the new ATV. I've seen different ATVs that people are coming out
Oh
with.
yeah.
There's some guys out there that like made their entire Imperial Guard army that are all women, and they look really, really cool. So I
I've
mean,
bought a
there's some
lot of
cool
stuff from Pop Goes Monkey
Yeah.
to customize my Marines.
Yeah.
And
He's got some cool stuff.
You know, I've bought shoulder pads
They-
from
I don't know
him.
if it's a
I've
he.
bought some weapons from him, and it just those little bitty changes really make your army unique.
I mean, if you're really wanting to brand, and I think a branded army on the table looks, even if you're just a mediocre painter,
Yeah.
if you could get something that says that's a Blood Angel, that's a Crimson Fist, whatever that little thing is.
Relican red.
No, I mean it looks. It just elevates it one little
Yeah.
step more if you can make it look like it's supposed to, as far as the branding goes.
Yeah.
and that guy
try and get
those
some
people
of
over
their
there, they have those.
heraldry on there.
Yeah, you don't even you don't have to worry about freehanding or anything. You just boop paint that, you stick it, glue it on there, and then you just
And
it's like an extra little 3D dimensional thing. So you just got to keep in the lines.
and you don't have to worry about
it
just
looks
like
great.
trashing the model if you don't put on, because I'm afraid of transfers.
Yeah,
don't wanna
I
ruin
have gotten really good at transfers. I'm pretty proud of myself because I'm like, man, I'm doing good. I could still use some work, but I mean, I think it just makes it look so much better.
I have a whole knight army that I want to put transfers on them eventually, but I have not worked up the courage to put it on there
Yeah,
yet.
Yeah.
No,
I might just have you do it.
well, I mean, I might, or we can work on it together. But I think the cool thing about transfers is, unlike these 3D things, if you really mess it up, thankfully you can just paint over it.
Yeah.
I think that's where airbrush stencils can really do.
I've tried some of that
Yeah.
too.
Airbrushing, I'm
hate
talking about
airbrushing.
hobby, that terrifies me. It terrifies me. Man, I am so, like, I need to get some big thing or something to work
So
on.
I
but
did use it on my knights, but it wasn't so much to get an airbrush effect as it was to get an even coat of orange.
that, something a model that big, I can definitely understand.
Yeah,
that.
terrain and large models and stuff. That's for novices. That's where airbrushes can really. I mean,
I would think I wouldn't be as terrified of doing a big model.
yeah.
It's, you see these guys that have like a little model, they're just, I'm like, how'd
Yeah.
you do that?
And it-
Angel stuff.
Yeah, it's still a hybrid, right? You're doing a lot of your basing.
The brushing will still
Yeah.
come in. Yeah.
One thing that I do want to try is the zenith highlighting, where you prime your model black, and then you take
It's
a
a-
white
it's
you
a
take
light.
a white ink from the top, and you just go
Basically,
just from the
you're-
top, and
you're-
that way you
you're
get the shadows
pre-shading.
pre-shaded,
And then you just do a transparent
and then
color
you do
over it.
transparent color.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's basically the same way you would do a coloring online.
Yeah,
Basically, you're coming in with a less opaque color over gradients that are already there.
Right.
So
So, all right. Well, I think that is our episode. We're at a whole hour
woo.
already. So, thank you so much for joining us. If you like the show, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like this video. We've got a lot of content coming down the pipe, not just for gaming, but on the comics and just fandom aside. So definitely stay tuned on our website.
and leave in the comments some of your plans for this year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely. Let's make this a discussion, and like I said, if you engage us in comments, we'll mention it on the next show. So, but anyway, have a great week. Have fun hobbying and gaming, and we'll catch you next time right here on the Unknown Comics or on the Unknown Gaming Podcast. I don't know words. Bye.
Later.